So Plato argues that through the exercise of the mind, especially through studying mathematics, that human beings can leave this physical world in some kind of mystical way and to get reconnected to the big logos up here, to get reconnected up here to this big logos up here, and through exercising the mind can have a mystical experience of the theos thing, that divine, sacred, perfect, beautiful thing that runs the whole universe. And Plato argues once you catch a glimpse, just of a second at a time, of that divine, sacred, beautiful, perfect world of the theos thing, then it changes your life forever. And this physical universe that you and I live in is just stuff. It's just a cave. It's just shadows on the wall. And Plato's argument that there is another world outside this physical universe that you and I live in, that we experience with our bodies, that we interact with physically, his argument that there is another world outside this physical universe comes from geometry. There we go. His argument comes from geometry. And here is Plato's argument, that there really is another world outside this physical universe. Now, what's that? It's a circle. Well, of course, you say it's a circle. If I write that and I say, what is that? You say it's a circle. But if I come back and I say, oh, really? Is it really a circle? Is it a real circle? You say, well, no. Of course, it's not a real circle. We call it a circle in conversation because it looks like a circle, it works like a circle, it's good enough to be a circle, but it isn't a real circle. It's not a perfect circle. It's not a real circle. If I say, oh really, you think that's a circle? Is that a real circle? You say, well no, I didn't think you were going to be a jackass about it. Of course it's not a real circle. In fact, the more you look at it, the less it looks like a real circle. You see how it's all scrunched on the bottom, how the two ends don't even meet. Speaking of which, are circles supposed to have two ends? And in fact, the more you look at it, the less it looks at all like a circle. You know, what's that? Well, it's a circle. Oh, is it a real circle? Well, no, it's not a real circle. It's not a perfect circle. It's not a real circle. It's not a perfect circle. We might call it a circle, although we know it's not a circle, because it works in conversation to call it a circle, even though we know that it's not. In fact, I could draw a whole bunch of circles, and I could be drawing circles all week long, and at the end of the week, how many real circles would I have drawn? None. Not a perfect circle, not a real circle. Now, I could draw some circles that were pretty good. I could draw some circles that were close to being perfect. We'll come back to that line of thought because that's a big part of the argument. But I would never have drawn a perfect circle. What's that? Well, it's a straight line. Oh, really? Is it really a straight line? Is it a perfectly straight line? Well, no. It kind of wiggles every once in a while. It's not a perfectly straight line. Could I draw a perfectly straight line if I used a ruler? Nope, because the ruler has dents and dings in it. You've done this in a science class probably at some point. You've taken something that looks perfectly straight, like the edge of a razor blade. What could be more straight than the edge of a razor blade? But when you look at it under a magnifying glass or a microscope, it's got all kinds of dents and dings and cracks in it. It's not straight at all. Could I make a straight line with a laser beam? Nope, because the photons in the laser beam oscillate in a wave frequency. The closer you look at the laser beam, the less it looks like a straight line. And that's because there aren't any perfect circles in the physical universe. There aren't any straight lines in the physical universe. There aren't any perfect circles. Not even the sun. The sun is squinched at the top and the bottom. There are no straight lines in the physical universe, certainly not at the molecular level, where even concepts like straight don't even exist. The closer you look, the more imperfections you find. Because there aren't any perfect circles in the physical universe or perfect straight lines, and yet somehow you know what those things are. You know what a perfect circle is because you can tell me which circle is more perfect than another. You know what a perfectly straight line is because you can tell me how close a line that I draw is to being perfect. You know what these things are, and yet you've never seen them. You've never seen a perfectly straight line. You've never seen a perfect circle or a perfect square or a perfect triangle. And yet you know what all these things are. Take this line of thought outside of geometry. You've experienced love in your life, but you've never experienced perfect love. You've experienced justice before, but you've never experienced perfect justice. You've seen beautiful things, but you've never experienced perfect beauty. And yet somehow you know what all these things are. You can tell me how close an act is to being an act of love. You can tell me how just a judge's sentence is, for example. You know what these things are, and you've never experienced them. Because these things don't exist in the physical universe. Perfect circles, perfect justice, perfect love, perfect straight lines. And yet you know what they are. They must exist somewhere because you know where they are. If they don't exist in this physical universe, well, where else would they exist but outside the physical universe? As Plato puts it, in the divine, sacred, perfect world of the theos thing, a world of perfect beauty, perfect justice, perfect love, and yes, Plato would say, perfect straight lines, perfect triangles, perfect circles, perfect trees, perfect squirrels, perfect everything. Perfect everything. And once you catch just a glimpse of the beautiful, divine, sacred, perfect world of the theos thing, then as you look around this physical universe, things are just shadows on the wall. It's just stuff. It's meaningless. It's just stuff. When you see an act of love between two people, you're reminded that it's nothing like the perfect love of the theos thing. When you see a beautiful sunset, you're reminded that it's nothing like the perfect beauty. As you look at circles and attempted circles in the physical universe, you're reminded they're nothing like the perfect circles of the theos thing. And Plato says, once you catch a glimpse of that divine, sacred, perfect world of the theos thing, then it changes your life forever. Well, just speaking for myself, which is all I ever do anyway, I think Plato has a strong argument. I think Plato's argument here gives a strong reason to believe that there's something that exists outside this physical universe. I think he makes a good argument. Not everybody has agreed with me, and not everybody has agreed with Plato. Most famously, Plato's most famous student, a man named Aristotle.